Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH. Today we're looking at Elminster. So Elminster is one of those Planeswalker commanders. He's a 5 mana with 5 loyalty, Azorius. Whenever you scry, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less, where X is the number of cards looked at while scrying this way. And he has +2, draw a card, then scry 2. So you always have the ability to make your next instant or sorcery cost 2 less. And -3, exile the top card of your library and create a number of 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature tokens with flying equal to that card's mana value. So two different things going on here. One is that we can reduce the cost of our spells by scrying, although it's not every single spell afterwards, it's only the next spell. We have a commander that can draw and scry cards, so keeping the board clear is pretty important. So we're going to want either teleport effects like Ghostly Prison or just sweepers in general. And then finally, if we can get a very expensive spell onto the top of our deck, we can exile that spell and make a bunch of 1/1 flyers. So with that said, if we take a look at some of the higher mana values, we have just some really expensive spells like Enter the Infinite and Stormherd, Expropriate, Mnemonic Deluge. So we can take these cards and we can either just cast them by having scryed either with our commander or with other scry spells and making these cards cheaper, or we can get them onto the top of our deck with tutors like Mystical Tutor, for example, and then just exile them and make a whole bunch of 1/1s with flying and then win that way. We also have an alternative as Approach of the Second Sun, which we can make this cheaper, cast it, put it back in our deck, and then cast Approach of the Second Sun once we get it. We're also, again, playing a bunch of scrying and drawing cards, so within one turn cycle, we should be able to find and cast Approach again. So aside from that, we've got a bunch of cantrip filtering stuff. So basically every single thing that I could find that scryed and also drew a card. So Deliberate, Scour All Possibilities, Omen of the Sea, Opt, Serum Visions, Preordain, and then anything that put cards from our hand back on top. So let's say we drew Enter the Infinite or Stormherd or one of these other big spells, and we either don't have the mana to cast it or we just want to put it back on top so that we can exile the top and make a bunch of tokens. We need cards like Brainstorm and Jace, put those cards back on top. Oath of Jace is also a card that is draw 3, ditch 2, which normally wouldn't be that good, but it's just a free scry when we have Elminster in play. Then we've got just straight up card draw, which includes all the normal stuff, including Skull Clamp for, we're making 1/1s, and then we've got Case of the Ransacked Lab and Archmage Emeritus since we're playing a bunch of spells. Also have access to Hullbreaker Horror as a way to potentially loop a bunch of stuff, or just as a big payoff. Displacer Kitten, similarly, we can use this to blink Elminster and then keep using his abilities. So let's say we've drawn a card and scryed 2, or we've minused and made a bunch of fairy tokens. We can cast something, Displacer Kitten triggers, we blink Elminster, he comes back into play, we can use him again. Bunch of counter spells, a little bit of fast mana. The quicker we can get Elminster out, the better. Straightforward lands, not much to see here. So then there is Ghostly Prison and Propaganda, and I've included these specifically to talk about why they're actually not good, and it's because they say creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature attacking you. It does not include planeswalkers. So even after you play these, your opponents are perfectly able to attack Elminster without having to pay the 2. So you do not want these here. You want something else here. So rather than those, a card like Sphere of Safety, which does include planeswalkers among the unable to be attacked part. Now, it is a little awkward that Sphere of Safety is 5 mana and directly competes on the curve with our commander, but this is more kind of the card that you would want. We also have a little bit of protection, although far fewer cards kill planeswalkers than other types of things, so it's mostly fine. We've got a bunch of ramp, obviously, to get to our commander. Bunch of removal as well. Obviously, we need to be able to kill things. And if they can scry as well, like Fading Hope, all the better. A little bit of stacks. We don't have any creatures with abilities, so Cursed Totem. We don't have any creatures with ETB triggers, so Torpor Orb, and then some other planeswalkers as well. The stacks our opponents. And then importantly, we also need sweepers to keep the board clear. So we want it to be that Elminster cannot be attacked, but we also have an ability that puts a bunch of 1/1 tokens in play. Therefore, we want our sweepers to not hit all of our 1/1s. So we've got cards like Dusk Dawn, hits only the creatures that have power 3 or more. Same thing with Battle of Bywater. Same thing with Restricted Office. And then Supreme Verdict just straight up kills everything, but what can you do? We only have access to so many sweepers, and sometimes we just need a good sweeper that can't be countered. There's also Expel the Interlopers, where you can choose the number, although this one's 5 mana, so a little less good, but another option. And then obviously tutors, including as many tutors as we can get that just put stuff on top of the deck, but not the ones that cost like 3 or something, so just the 1 mana ones. And so to reiterate, we're mainly trying to do a sort of control card advantage game and eventually win via either just making a bajillion 1/1s that can fly and killing our opponents that way, or casting Approach of the Second Sun and winning the game off of that. So with all that said, that is going to do it for Elminster in EDH.